the promise of AI, I think, is a lot more powerful than the reality. People learn a little bit about something and go, wow, this is easy, but they don't realize how much more there is to actually know about it. Like, it's easy to build crappy products for sure. Building products is still hard.
Hey, greetings everybody. This is the old your Hyperengage podcast, and I know that this has been long waiting in terms of the number of episodes. We kind of cut it down to now more than not more than five. I know that it used to be like 15 or 20 a month. The reason being is we're pretty much focused on what we are building, as well as some of the unique stories that we are trying to spend a touch more time locating, because it's just now equally important for us to make sure we don't just ride the wave of AI powered, AI native, GPT first, and all these kind of tools that are many in the matter. And it's kind of a black box that I think that it's so hard to get so specific and granular into technology, into GTM, into growth, and all of that. This is what matters. And if we cannot if we cannot do unlock so much with so many of the platforms, there's no point doing the podcast. So today we've got this interesting product, interesting founder, doing it, being a long time runner in the game, and being somebody that has done it at skill in a slightly unique segment. I know that when we talk about sales, we only talk about, hey, the tools for SDRs and BDRs, tools that get them leads, get them product qualified leads, get them to help with outbound calls and all of that. So I think today we're going to be talking about how in more than 45% mid-market to enterprise sales executives and account managers are trying to win their contracts, win their deals, close more deals from, I would say, from first touch point to closing the deal, even writing an email. I think the whole journey has been slightly different than mostly SMB market and all the new gen kind of STRs, PDRs that we think of. But I think this has been something that we definitely want to talk. Today, we're going to be talking about Proposify. We have Kyle Racki with us, who's the founder, CEO of Proposify, just in one of the platforms that is making a huge impact in the sales segment, especially in the mid-market to enterprise. Thank you very much, Kyle, for taking the time.
Hey, thanks for having me. Happy to be here.
Love it. So, Kyle, I know that sales journey has like different components across different segments, and like depending on what kind of market you're targeting as sales or account executive. Thinking about this entire spectrum changing, I know a lot of these sales teams, like in the enterprise segment, they're thinking about trying to optimize their workflow, trying to standardize, trying to attach, automate, data driven, all of that. How do you see this proposal thing as a function in the sales? Whether it's growing, it's like kind of cutting down. People are more thinking about now it's not gonna work. Like nobody needs all that literature and all. I know Panadoc and all these contract management platforms that are big enough for the same reason. But how do you see this entire category?
Yeah, I mean, this proposal software space has been growing steadily now for the past 10, 15 years. And we've been grateful to be a part of that. We've now been in business 11 years at Proposify since kind of launching. And the space has evolved, but it's a lot of the same players. You mentioned Pandadoc. There's us. There's Quiller. There's a handful of others. There's very specialized versions of it as well. I think I stumbled on like roofing proposal software the other day. So, I mean, what I often say is you listen to like Jeff Bezos, the famous kind of quote that he had said was like he looks 10 years in the future and doesn't say like where are things going. He says like what's not going to change in 10 years. That's the only thing you can really bet on. You don't know what technology is going to be like in 10 years, but you kind of know what people are always still going to do in 10 years. And so for him, he said like faster delivery and lower prices, people are going to still want that in 10 years. And so he optimized Amazon for that. And I kind of view it a little similarly, which is, I mean, proposals have been around for, I don't know, since maybe the dawn of sales. Because at the end of the day, if you're talking to a prospect and they say, okay, I'm interested, send me the information. so I can make an informed decision. And when I'm ready to sign, it's our digital handshake. That other than the digital part, that handshake has been around for a very long time, contracts, right? So any tool like us or our competitors that can speed up that process and make it faster and more efficient, and also more, allow the company to present a better image professionally, stand out from their competition. That's really why people buy tools like Proposify. A lot of the businesses that come to us that are slightly larger, the mid-market enterprise type companies, it's not that they can't get a proposal out the door. It's the fact that as their teams scale, it's become a lot more chaotic to manage. It takes too long for what it is, and often things are going out with errors or mistakes that make them look unprofessional. So they're usually buying us for one of three reasons, which is create a more professional presentation, reduce or eliminate errors, speed up the process so it's a lot more efficient and more automated, and we require less, human effort to do it. And ultimately to get the analytics and the metrics, because that is kind of one of the things that people miss when they're just sending a PDF over email, is like, did my prospect even look at it? Did they open it? Sometimes prospects will lie and say, no, I haven't looked at it, but very well that they've been in there. So those are kind of why people buy tools like Proposify.
Interesting. You mentioned like Panadog. I was thinking it as an adjacent market, but not direct into your category. So like we are using Panadog for years only for the contract. Like we think of it only for the contracts and anything to do with the customers, any like signing it off, having sort of a digital handshake to make sure it's legally compliant too. So I know that it could be in the same market, but are you thinking like have are they also thinking about like jumping into proposals and all this presentation kind of
Oh
adjacent
yeah,
category?
we've gone directly head to head against Panadoc for basically as
Mm.
long as we've been in existence. They used to be called Quote Roller back in the day, and then they kind of rebuilt their platform, rebranded it Pandadoc, and they've been, very successful in the space. They've raised a lot of VC money. They've grown.
Mm.
But yeah, in terms of what they do, I'm very curious. I know I'm the one being interviewed right now, but I'm curious from your perspective. If you're using Pandadoc, why wouldn't you use it for proposals?
Um, a lot of these I mean it is more for the sales process that we have. I think at scale this will be pretty early, but at scale thinking about like proposing like 20 and 25 customers a week, prospects a week, that would have at least a tool like Panadoc, for thinking about Panadoc or Proposify for proposing. I think this proposing is that more going about like more relationship based. Like we're in New York City, we're in Florida, we're in SF, doing some events, doing some networking, meeting some friends, people that know people, get referred. So it doesn't go like, proposal is more meant for like cold touch points, and then, proposing them different offers for product and services. In B2B sales, it's more, proposing them, value sell them, use cases and all. And then it mostly is done after the demo. So it's demos mostly for people that don't know you or people that you reach out. So the sales process is not yet, but it's so powerful because I realized it is the moment I saw it. I saw proposed by about 7, 8 years back. This whole time I didn't know Panadol can be used for that too. I thought like all these companies using Panadol only for contract management more of than the proposing and in the sales process.
Hmm. Yeah, and granted, Panadoc's visual capabilities are not as strong as ours, so people tend to look at us more of like the visual presentation tool than Panadoc. So, but I mean, we're very, very similar tools at the end of the day. You can use us for proposals, contracts, quotes, that kind of thing.
Love it. Love it. So now, Kyle, I was also thinking about this. I know that you started back in, I think, 2014, 15-ish, and I know things were technologically different. Like you could have think about product and, market competition all together different, even like 4 or 5 years back. How sweet you see it different? I know that you backed by you raised capital, whether it's enough for 10 years. Is it something that is, that can help you elevate really, really fast, or you think that you need to settle down, or you need to make sure that you capture The industry says this category is slightly evolving more and has less competition compared to many other. Like in your Jason, a lot of these SDRs, they are using a ton of tool on average. In funded startup from I would say seed to Series a sales organization on average uses like 3 to 5 tools on average. And if you just go up market, like Series A startups like fund more than 7 to 8 million, and the bank can, that's more than 10. So they're using like a lot of tooling. So how do you see as a founder fitting in and things changing and you adapting to it in terms of from a commercial standpoint as well as like positioning the product?
Well, yeah, things have changed in 10 years. I think it's we've experienced a pretty cyclical change that happens, I think, in all markets, which is there's the period, the boom period where SaaS is eating the world and um, venture capital is very strong. Interest rates are low, which is essentially what makes VC money plentiful. And also because of that, people are buying more tools. So it's sort of this, we've gone through the boom era, and that was kind of the area that we raised money. And then in 2022, things started slowing down in SaaS. Obviously, AI changed a lot. Where now we've still got some of the fastest growing SaaS companies, but they're AI first. And we're sort of going through like a mini bubble where there is capital out there being deployed, but it's pretty heavily in the AI space, even though I think there's a lot of risks, and we can get into that if you want, into the AI piece. But I guess, what's changed? Well, we started off pretty bootstrapped. We raised a very small amount of capital, and it was mostly government sort of funded. It wasn't traditional VC by any means. And then we were growing and profitable for a number of years. Then, kind of around 2018, we decided to raise more traditional VC venture capital. And then we decided after COVID, we had closed, I think, on our last round. But then, as sort of everything in SaaS got a little bit weird and money started drying up and deal cycles got a little slower, growth got a little slower for everyone, I think that was when we decided, I don't want to do this forever. I don't want to continue to have to raise every 18 months or every 2 years. So that was where we kind of went back to our roots and just started to look at how do we get more efficient with cash? How do we get to profitability? And it might mean we're not the fastest growing company, but we're doing it on our terms. And yes, we do have investors, and they want to see a return, and maybe an eventual exit. But we're going to figure out how to do this more profitably and more efficiently, and that's what we've been doing now for the past 3 years.
Absolutely love it. Because it's always good to give yourself a break, no matter. I know there are strategic VCs and all that can help you with networks, connection, resources, peers, or maybe some good logos. But at the end of the day, a lot of them, not all of them, they take all the freedom that you have as a founder and a lot of the decision making that you do to make sure everything aligns with the product vision, especially in the product side, because there's so much of noise. Uh, Anybody can at least perceive anything and have a touch like a prototype of anything that they think that that's gonna boom with AI, and and there is so much like money being spent on things that are flashy on AI, and they're not, as AI being not deterministic uh, as its nature. So it becomes so hard for a founder to have a clear vision around the product, which people think like how many co-founders you are altogether, like 2 or 3?
I had one co-founder who's not with the company anymore. He's retired.
Okay.
So I'm
Okay.
the CEO
Oh,
and co-founder.
uh, okay. CEO and founder. Love it. So now your industry, Kyle, also, a lot of these folks that we met a lot of, we met the Pandadoc team as well, their success leaders and all. So at that time, they were not like thinking, but now they are thinking like going about multi-product, building agents, having verticals specializing within the org, and then testing it internally, and then deploying it for their customers. So how are you thinking around that, as a
Or
solo founder now?
how am I thinking about AI specifically?
Yeah, I mean, building vertical agents going forward, I know in your space, but that is going to be so hard for you at looking at the product without going multi-product.
Mhm.
So what kind of like things you're thinking along those lines? Because that's going to be really extend an adjacent market or adjacent segment for you. I'm not saying like going like building something for customer support, but
Yeah.
thinking about like having adjacent use cases because with AI, it's easier. Number one, number two, the customers on the other side, even in the mid market to enterprise, that your sweet spot, they're also thinking about doing more with less, not because they don't have a lot of money, because a lot of these tools are doing a lot of adjacent use cases that are going multi-product and building maybe specialized vertical agents for different adjacent cases. So because it's easy. Uh, I'm thinking a lot about, because I'm early, small. I'm just catching your thoughts, like how you're going about it.
Yeah, I think going multi-product is an important part of growing the business. Um, I would talk to the one of the co-CEOs of Chili Piper, and she mentioned how I forget her name actually. We'll have to edit that in, but um, Chili Piper added multiple products to their platform, and it's really helped fuel their growth. I think they're 40 million or 50 million ARR now. So I think it is important because, I mean, at the end of the day, the markets are big for SaaS, but they aren't infinite. So at eventually, you need to figure out how to sell more things to your customers. And a lot of them appreciate being able to use your tool for more things. So we talked about the difference between maybe proposals and contracts and where they sit at different stages of the sales cycle. But there's also, like, we didn't talk about digital sales rooms, for example, which is kind of if you actually look at the functionality, it's very, very similar to what tools like Proposify does, but it tends to sit kind of earlier in the sales cycle, maybe after the first call or after the first demo, where you want to kind of put all the things in a room and have your, access to contracts and be able to get analytics and collaborate with your buyer and all that kind of stuff. But really, at the end of the day, it's just a proposal. It's a very fancy word for a proposal, but that's what it is. So yeah, I think what's happening in this space is, as is natural, there is consolidation, right? Like we saw it with HubSpot. Like HubSpot started as an inbound marketing tool, and now it's a CRM, and it's a support platform, and it's doing all these things. So I think that, well, I don't know about what our competitors are doing, but I know that for us, an important part of our vision is to expand into adjacent markets. And those typically look like CPQ, configure price quote, CLM, contract lifecycle management. I would say are the two biggest ones. There's a couple other ones we could talk about, but that those are very similar use cases. It does expand our markets because maybe somebody who uses CPQ is not like a traditional marketing agency. There's somebody with more products, more SKUs, that kind of thing. But then the trick is how do we sort of layer AI into all of these different use cases in a way that's really helpful. And so very soon after ChatGPT was released, and we were all it was blowing our minds with how powerful it was. I realized that it was important to make AI an integral part of our vision, but there was a strong part of me that knew that eventually all tools are going to have these types of things, right? Text generators, and then agents came out, and it's really hard to implement AI in a way that's unique because everybody's kind of doing the same thing, and useful because there's a lot of AI in all the tools we're using today that I would venture to say many of us don't actually use. Summaries, text generation, things like that are kind of just like a given, and a lot of times we don't even really make use of it. So I think the interesting part is how could we use AI in a way that really solves problems that we couldn't solve in any other way? And that's how I'm looking at AI. So, I mean, that can be in the form of generating documents asynchronously via agents, but it's also, and apologies if you hear my daughter here. I don't have childcare today, so she's kind of hanging around. You might hear her voice
Not a
or
problem. I have a 4 months old too.
Oh, nice.
Yeah, so sweet.
Awesome. I put a show on for her, but she seems to want attention here.
Beautiful.
Yeah, like those are kind of the more obvious use cases that I think us and Pandadoc and everybody's going to have. I also think that there's some really interesting use cases around um, why do people buy Proposify and tools like us is a lot of cases to eliminate errors. They want to implement things like approval workflows. They want to make sure that documents are going out with the right pricing. And that's where actually I think AI can be maybe the most useful is how can, instead of having a human be the bottleneck in approving a document or a proposal, how could we train the AI to know what to look for? Right. So we're kind of calling it preventative AI, but
Mhm.
that's not a real term. But that's kind of things that we're looking at. We're also looking at predictive analytics because tools like ours generate a lot of data and a lot of view
Mhm.
metrics, and being able to
Yes.
kind of use that data and run a predictive model at it to be able to say like here's things that you can or should be doing to
And
influence your close rate.
absolutely. Yeah. And here are the things that actually work for, other people, based on analytics and all, or maybe work for you, based on your past contracts and all. And on the text generation, on the knowledge base that you mentioned, like how you're like thinking around, like, let's say, uh, let's say we have like three customer segments, and we are proposing in one customer segment and we have standardized playbooks for sales. Like these are the traits of, companies, B2B context. And these are like the parameters. So all of that, if we feed to Proposify, based on some of the case studies that we have or the knowledge base that will help us drive that sale or value into that proposal. Can that be automatically be understood, analyzed, or like next best action taken and added? Like how I can tailor my proposal for one segment in less time and make it as impactful.
Yeah.
So how are you guys are driving towards that? I know that you touched a little bit. Is that along those lines?
Yeah, those are definitely things that we're thinking about. It's I think in a lot of ways we need to walk before we can run. And so where we've started this year is at very simple AI use cases, generating a template, being able to customize or improve text
Okay.
within a proposal.
Hmm.
So we're kind of starting there to get our feet wet with it because I think this is
Hmm.
still new for a lot of people, and I also think that AI is um, still quite limited in what it's able to do. The promise of AI, I think, is a lot more powerful than the reality of it at the moment. We're seeing that with, for example, like app generators like Replit and
Lovable.
ones like that, where when they first came out, people were like, oh my god, we don't need developers anymore. Like developers are the way of the dinosaur, and then people actually realize how hard programming is and how things break, and you have to
Now
actually
they're
know how
building
to
a
fix
customer
them.
success org. Now, just recently they hired a customer success head of customer success. Now they're thinking about reaching those customers and helping them adopt to the platform because it's not easy at scale.
Exactly. It's the Dunning-Kruger effect in practice,
Mm,
right? Which is people learn a little bit about something and go, "Wow, this is easy," but they don't realize how much more there is to actually know about it. And so I don't buy
absolutely.
into the idea that building products is easy. You see that all over LinkedIn. It's easy to build products nowadays. It's like it's easy to build crappy products for sure. It's easy to build generic crud lists for sure, but
Mm,
building products is still hard. It still takes expertise and talent and people who know what they're doing, whether it's engineering, design,
absolutely.
product management. Like it is still a real craft and a real art form to do it well. And I feel like we're still, in a lot of ways, just trying to nail the basics. And that's actually what customers tend to care about. Yeah, we get customers or prospects who ask about certain AI capabilities that we don't have yet. But more often than not, the things that people want and the things that people complain about when it's not working well are the basics of like a smooth editing experience, powerful integrations that automate things and sync properly. Like that piece of it is a lot harder than people realize to get right.
Absolutely. When you're 10 years down, you think more about like how you can serve them better, with experiences and, deliver more value than adding more features because that is more of to your thing that you mentioned earlier. Like it's always easy to, build a lot of things and scatter a lot of things and experiment and expose to AI a lot when you're early on, you don't have, a bunch of folks and customers that, to look after every month. And, so that is easier. And they're, I would call it they're fortunate, but it's still hard as 100% agree. It's still hard to build a product, right? Product for scale, engineering for scale. It's not easy even today. You might be able to do it slightly faster, but I think that when it comes to expertise, you need the same amount of expertise to understand the outcomes coming out of AI and understand what's the right outcome and what's the right engineering. If you don't know it,
No.
no AI, no amount of AI would ever be able to do it at scale.
And I want to share this because I think depending on your listeners, they might find this interesting if they're kind of in the startup world or tech world. Is we're still paying off tech debt that we created 10 years ago. And exactly what you talked about with, people getting up and running fast with AI. I mean, that in a lot of ways existed, but on a different scale 10 years ago, because tools like coding frameworks, for example, made building apps a lot faster and easier. And when we got off the ground, of course, we did what every startup does, which is just kind of build everything in a monolith, use the most available technology, PHP, jQuery, things like that, to just build really quickly and build what customers want. And then we built something that customers wanted. But the critical mistake that I made was I didn't invest in getting a more experienced engineering leader in place until much, much later in our company's history. And I realized that once we started to raise money and hire engineers and start to move fast, we started to get a lot slower at being able to ship. And you think, well, wow, with more engineers, instead of we started with 3 engineers, and now we have 30. We should be able to actually do 30 times the amount. We actually did much less. And that came with cultural debt, but also technical debt and legacy and building within a monolith. The whole reason why we launched Proposify 3 earlier this year, because most of our customers are still on the old version on 2, is the fact there really was no way for us to build quickly with modern tech without replatforming and without being able to break things out into separate services and use more kind of modern front end and be able to use API endpoints. And I don't know how technical your audience is, but the broad strokes is you got to pay for the tech debt one day. It might come sooner or later, but
Mhm.
eventually you've got to pay for it. And we've been paying for it now
Absolutely.
for years. And it was only when
Mhm.
I was able to get the right CTO in place who was able to say, okay, we can deliver value iteratively, but we need to pay back our tech debt iteratively, and we need
Yes,
to have a
absolutely.
path
We,
forward.
we need to do the change management. We need to make sure that we need to change the engineering infrastructure, not because it's badly built, because it was built maybe 5 years ago. Things have changed drastically. Even that CTO earlier, the co-founder, didn't know that. And this happened a lot with a lot of founders. And we I built like a couple of products in the past 6 7 years. Some of my passion projects too, and I call them obsolete. And we have some customer like around like one of lifetime customers that they use that product for digital card setting and all. And just 6 months back, and I have my CTO is building Hyperengage as well to change everything inside out. So we got like 2 engineers to work for like good 3 weeks and change the entire back end. Push it to next. And this comes back to thing that we discussed with the CTO of Trustpilot, like ex-CTO's Trustpilot, is now building Green Data, great guy, Oli. These European guys, they're so good at infrastructure and engineering, to be very honest, analytics and all. So he said that, uh, you know, if you're building and you're thinking of doing the right engineering for scale from day one, people, your co-founder, your team members, your customers, they're not going to clap for you today. And that's one job that nobody claps for you that moment, but you're doing for the future. So it's just about that.
And it's very important to not build for scale before you know you have a real business, right? And so that's the problem sometimes with technical co-founders is they want to really focus on the back end and the infrastructure and how they're managing server resources and things like that. And that's absolutely the wrong thing to be doing at that stage, right? You've got to build rapidly. And that's where AI tooling really makes sense, because you can spin up ideas quickly that work, that have a database back in the back end. But the point is, you've got to pay for the tech debt one day. And I think what a lot of founders who are not technical, who are using AI, maybe don't realize, because of that Dunning-Kruger effect, is, it's great if you can get a couple hundred or maybe a couple thousand users using your product that's built with AI. That's great. But eventually it's going to break and you don't know how to fix it. So you've
Right.
got to invest in the tech talent, and you probably eventually just have to move away from an AI generated app and actually just build it properly.
Absolutely. You can have an AI augmented with the human in the loop. In your case, like it's mission critical things, all of these you're passing, these are all customer facing roles and doing all the engagements that are mission critical. And it's super, needs to be not super intelligent, more super efficient.
Mhm.
So love it. So now thinking about a little bit about your customer segment, I know that uh, it's 10 years down. It's always good to, settle down. Hey, this is my spot. I need to expand. I need to go up market within the segment and all. What you're thinking around go to market wise, like what kind of more segment that has opened up for you in the last 3 years? I know when there's noise, there's opportunity. So how do you see it as a founder from the go to market standpoint?
Yeah, I think this is really interesting because in a lot of ways it parallels the whole thing we were talking about with technology, where you start with scrappy and fast and deliver iteratively and then figure out how to like scale up the back end. I think it's actually similar in go to market, because you want to start a new business with a very, very narrow, specific segment of the market that you sell to. And we did that actually in the early days with marketing agencies. Our primary target audience was small digital marketing agencies, founder led, with maybe 10 to 20 employees. And the reason we kind of picked that was just because it was the market I knew, because that was my prior business. So I kind of was like solving my own problem and able to speak to, what it's like running an agency and dealing with clients and trying to send proposals. But we actually, expanded quite a bit over the last decade, because naturally proposals are a very broad thing. Most markets send proposals and most of them want to do it more efficiently. So what we kind of found was that there were certain markets that were naturally attracted to us that we weren't specifically going out and trying to market to. Probably the most notable one was kind of like what I lump as the general blue collar market. So this would be things like janitorial services, um, landscaping, roofing, kind
Love
of the
it.
construction space.
Mm.
Was not a market that I really knew well, or again, really intentionally went out and tried to build content and advertising around. It was just one of the ones that kind of naturally came to us, and now it makes up a pretty significant part of our customer base. But it sort of breaks down into that blue collar market, but then also the white collar market, which is not just marketing agencies, but IT, consulting, events, law firms, accounting firms, that kind of thing. And so we have dozens and dozens of industries that use us, and some that we have more of than others. But in a lot of ways, this has been a real help to us, because regardless of what the markets are like and the economy is like, is you pretty much always have a segment that's doing okay, even in a bad economy. Whereas
Mm.
I feel bad for SaaS founders and SaaS companies that specifically sold to other SaaS companies.
Mm.
My
Yeah.
buddy of mine, Ryan O'Hara, calls it the fake economy, right? It's like all the SaaS companies are just buying each other's products, but then when SaaS goes through recessions and
Yeah.
can't get funding, it's like,
So
where we lose
200
customers.
people. It's like 200 people sharing a meal.
Yes, exactly,
Yeah, I
exactly.
was, your industry, like I closely look at because we go through it as executives in our everyday life. So just look like I was trying to, just last month, hire a space in San Francisco financial district. We were doing an event on October 28th. Just folks getting together, like having some main panels, startup panels, having some networking, sharing a meal at the end of the day, 5 to 8 p.m. So I was just looking through a platform named Peer Space. So they had like different event space in, and you can rent it for an hourly basis. Like I want it for 3 hours, and also I just called this guy up, and the host was with the name Jose, and he said, "Hey, And now we went and we negotiated and all of that. And he said, okay, I'm gonna send you the contract, approval. So I think they were using Panadoc or something. So he sent me a lay down. And it was just $800 an hour, like something like 2,000, $2,500. But he made it sure that it's absolutely formal. Everything will be discussed on a call. I'm good about like just picking the phone and calling people up. But he was like more about like right after that call, he just laid down everything, Panadoc and document so I can review it. And then I said, hey, this is something that I need to change, all of that. And it was kind of an iterative process, like any like it's a part of everyday life, your category, and it is going to be even more expanded in other segment, as you mentioned, like this roofing, pest control, a lot of these. Like I'm at yesterday, I was at a Delta Beach, went to meet a friend at the event, and there I met a guy that is doing roofing and all of this. Like he has this company for commissioner of Miami that was running election. It's just got like 7 or 8 different, the businesses, all of them like, they're doing like documentation and they're documentation heavy. And they're like slightly more formal or anything with government. So I love the way you're approaching because it's not only about SaaS, especially the times we are in.
Yeah, I think software makes people think that every idea has to be original and has never been done before. My idea has to be a solely unique thing. And the thing is, nothing is really that original. And when you look at like people in, say, your area, your neighborhoods who are the wealthiest people that what do most of them do? They're in finance. We Somebody in my city who kind of people know has like big mansion. What does he do? He sells used cars. He owns dealerships. Um, there's business owners that sell bread that have restaurants. I'm not saying those are necessarily great businesses to run and they have their own challenges, but every business has its challenges. It might be low margins, it might be, SaaS has plenty of challenges, but it also has a lot of upside. But the thing is, at the end of the day, your business doesn't need to be unique. It just needs to solve a specific problem for a market who cares and do it really well, rinse and repeat over and over and over again. And that's what I
Absolutely.
love about people like Jason Fried and at Basecamp.
Yeah,
They
I
just
love David and Jason. I love their
25
business model.
years
Like
project management.
absolutely bootstrap, all of that bootstrap. That's the best business model that you could have. You can still be profitable, and you don't make the headlines. That's okay. You don't got like you don't get benches like all of these like VC backed companies does. But you're doing okay, and they build a really good product.
And
You
look
know,
at look at a lot of the SaaS companies that have raised tons of money and have gotten tons of headlines and press. In a lot of cases, they don't exist anymore. They've been bought up by PE and sort of ripped and replaced and merged with another company, and they just don't exist
Equihire,
anymore.
that's a new term that came with AI, Equihire. So these folks like my ballistic too. Like I've done like so many of episodes, done it for so long. There's so many parties that came and sat down and doing all together different things that they promise right here on the other side of the table.
Yeah.
So I know that's a part of the game, but it's always good to not marry to one idea and one segment and anything, and always have your you having sort of an independent kind of thinking model, a mindset as a founder, to have like see the opportunity. That's hey, I see the opportunity in roofing and pest control. Boom, let's do something for them. While that aligns everything with our product and all. So I mean, I know it's hard. I know it's not easy to make sure that you adopt like a lot of these industries. They're not well adopted technology, but you have to build technology differently as well. User experience, UI. You're building somebody that is a realtor, a real estate brokerage versus a guy who's in a sales executive or account executive in a tech company. Experience might be different. Their adaptability might be different. So many things, and there are challenges. I was mentioning like there are challenges if you go to significantly different segments, and that are more profitable. That's fine, but as a product, as a go to market, might be not that heavily disturbed, but when it comes to product experience and all of those, so that also comes with it.
Yeah. Yeah. 100%.
Okay, so just last few minutes of we're gonna talk a little bit about how you're like. I know that a lot of these companies talk about like we make like 4 million annual recurring revenue, 5, 10, 15, well, 150. I tell like, okay, that's fine. Whatever revenue that you make, that's good. How much you're putting it back for success in your customers. So what are you doing towards like making sure they're well onboarded in the first few weeks? They are doing all the checklists to well adopt to the platform. They're seeing value the fastest into the product. So, what kind of investment initiatives are you doing, Kyle, in terms of giving it back and making sure to work towards success? And at the end of the day, they're able to use your product for the longer period of time. You're able to increase the time lifetime value, help them see more value over time and increase and expand. What kind of workflow you guys have? What kind of initiatives have you guys taken recently? How much of it is data driven? All of that.
Mm. Yeah, I mean, since we're in a kind of an interesting transition period now, because as I mentioned, a lot of our existing customers are using our older V2 product, and we've rolled out our V3 product, which is not 100% there in terms of it doesn't have all the features yet that the old one has, but it's an overall kind of smoother editing and user experience. So we're kind of like straddled right now between those two worlds. So they kind of look very differently. We've been trying to really nail like our user onboarding and our trial to paid conversion, and we haven't, we haven't always been successful at doing that. For example, like my big idea or this year, I guess it was late last year, but we rolled it out in March, was, oh, this is a perfect use case for AI. So a lot of people who want to use a tool like Proposify, where they get stuck is they've got to learn this editing software. They've got to take a template and they have to customize it and replace their brand and their colors and add their content and images and all that kind of stuff to it. So there's a little bit of a time to value delay, because ultimately people want to be sending out proposals and winning at the end of the day. But in order to get there, you've got to invest time and energy into setting up your first document or your template. So I said, well, perfect use case for AI. Give us your website or upload a PDF, and we'll turn it into this, ready-made template that's already got your brand colors and all this stuff. Well, it failed miserably. It actually hurt our conversion was to add that to the onboarding.
Oh my gosh. Could you also please add more like what were the reasons like it failed? Because it seemed like a kind of anything that you like. I'm not sure about that those traditional like localized businesses, but more for like IT companies and tech like executives in the enterprise mid market, they would have loved it.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I mean, some of it's technical and some of it's UX related, but I mean, it's like AI is, and if you look at any of the AI proposal generating tools out there, if you Google search that, our name will come up and a couple of others. They actually take a long time to load, like more than people are used to. It could be 30 seconds, it could be a minute, but that is a long time for a user to sit and wait and sort of watch like a spinning loading tool before they get something. And then the problem is whatever it generates is just okay. It's not that great. And I've used others, I've used our competitors. Everybody's are kind of about the same, is that it gives you like a sort of kind of crappy document that may use your old logo and use your wrong colors, because it's just scraping the web and finding what it can find. And so it's one of those ideas that sounds so great on paper, but then when you actually see like rubber hit the road, you're like, this isn't actually that great. And users don't actually like the output. They're better off choosing a template and just putting their own stuff in.
Mm, okay. I mean, now you're thinking about making sure that you read for it and make sure that you focus more on the user experience side of things and less about features and enabling them, but more giving them the ability to craft through these templates and enable them to create templates.
Yeah. Yeah, and I
Mhm.
mean, our professional services have been an important part of onboarding for a very long time, and we were even making tweaks to how we do that. What we always did historically was for larger accounts, we would sell them a service that would basically be, we have professional designers in-house who know the product well, and you just give them kind of your requirements and they build a custom template for you and it always
Mm,
looks stunning. Customers love it. We've basically, what we're playing with is how to repackage that, or play with how we package that service into, instead of just being a design service, it's more what we're calling a launch kit. So it's like, the
mm,
idea is that people don't care about a template. They care about getting to value. They care about sending a great looking proposal and winning deals. So we're basically packaging that together in like, how do we get you to value faster? It might be, we take a template, we brand it to your name, we deliver it much faster than like a more custom service would be. We send you a video walkthrough of how to use it. We give you priority support for the first 30 days. We give you a money back guarantee. Like, how can we create, like, stack this offer so that it's a no brainer and make it more affordable because we're able to deliver it a lot faster? That's where we're trying to go with it, because that ultimately we
with the
think
help
that
of
we'll be able
professional
to,
services team, right?
yeah, yeah.
Love it. And of course, this is by no mean like, of course, you're trying to productize it, but thinking about traditional, success, how you're like analyzing how they're interacting with the platform, success metrics around your the actions that they take for a lot of, in our space like B2B SaaS, mid-market, enterprise. Are you doing any of that? Like, because a lot of success lies within like how customers are adopting to your platform and then consuming it over time.
Yeah, like a portion of our sales come in from an actual sales team, right? So we have a sales team that runs demos and closes deals. Um, and that, I mean, they obviously can't talk to everyone because we get a lot of, we get a lot of trial signups, we get a lot of demo requests. It's actually the current problem we're trying to solve right now is, how do we get more conversion happening
Free
from
to
that
pay,
inbound?
free to pay.
Free to paid, yeah, but also even
Mm-hmm.
demo to paid. Like,
Mm-hmm.
our problem right now is not demand. We've been averaging in the last quarter like between 700 and 900 trial signups a week, and that's not counting
Mm-hmm.
demo requests. The real
Okay.
trick is, how do we harness that demand and convert it? And
Because demo is going to be hard to kill with the of course, with a product like this, you can have like regular demos. Like a lot of people want to explore and all. It's not that lot, like bigger size companies would only think about like building demo. This like freelancers, like agency owners and all. It's so hard to serve that amount of demos. So it's a better bet for you guys to make the freemium model more self-serve, more have like kind of a digital touch, and then setting some triggers or kind of a metrics around the high growth accounts. And you only cherry pick those based on some triggers, some rules, and all of that. So we can talk more about it for another day, but it was really, really nice, having you guys on. And like I know, like my team, we already know about Proposify, and we love the way that you have had this level up, and you didn't like just try to ride the wave during the last 3 years like many companies try to do that for a good reasons. Now that I know more, so I appreciate your time, Kyle.
yeah, thanks for having me on, Dill.
Yeah, love that. Have a good rest of your day, brother.
Yeah, you too.